What would you do if your husband handed you divorce papers instead of the apology you expected? How did a simple request for freedom end with me being the one locked out of my own life? I thought I could control the story, until the moment he showed me just how much I had underestimated him. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The kitchen felt smaller than usual as I stood at the sink, watching Graham grade papers at our dining table. His brown hair had started showing grey at the temples, and those reading glasses made him look older than his 35 years. When had he become so predictable? "Graham, we need to talk," I said, drying my hands on the dish towel. He looked up from a stack of third-grade math tests. "What's on your mind, Tryph?" I hated when he called me that. It sounded like something you'd name a houseplant. "It's about us, about our marriage." His pen stopped moving. "Okay." The way he said it, so calm, so measured, irritated me. Everything about Graham was measured these days. Measured responses, measured affection, measured everything. "I've been thinking a lot lately," I began, settling into the chair across from him. "About happiness, about fulfillment, about what I need." "What you need," he repeated slowly. "Yes, Graham, I feel trapped. I feel like I'm suffocating in this life we've built. I'm 32 years old, and I feel like I'm already dead inside." He set down his pen completely now, giving me his full attention. "Trapped how?" "This routine, this same conversation every night. You come home, grade papers, we eat dinner, watch TV, go to bed, rinse and repeat. Where's the passion? Where's the excitement?" Graham's jaw tightened slightly. "I thought we were building something stable. For Bella, for us." "Stable is just another word for boring, Graham." I leaned forward. "When's the last time you really looked at me? I mean, really saw me as a woman, not just as your wife or Bella's mother?" "Tryphena, where is this coming from?" "It's coming from 7 years of feeling invisible in my own marriage." The words felt good coming out, liberating. "I need more. I deserve more." "More what?" I took a deep breath. This was it. "I think we should open our marriage." The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Graham's face went through several expressions: confusion, hurt, disbelief. "Open our marriage," he said finally. "You mean—" "I mean we should be free to explore connections with other people, to feel alive again, to remember what it's like to be desired. You want to sleep with other men. I want to feel like a woman again instead of just a fixture in this house." Graham stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "This is insane, Tryphena. We have a daughter. We have a life together. A life that's slowly killing me inside." I stood too, following him as he paced toward the living room. "Graham, this doesn't have to be the end of us. It could be a new beginning, a chance to rediscover ourselves. By sleeping with other people. By being honest about our needs. By not pretending that monogamy is natural or healthy when it clearly isn't working for us." He turned to face me, and for a moment I saw something raw in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or anger. "It's not working for you, you mean? Can you honestly tell me you're happy? Can you look me in the eye and say this marriage fulfills you?" Graham was quiet for a long moment. "I thought it did. I thought we were happy. We were settling, there's a difference. And this is your solution? To, what, start dating other people while we're still married? To explore, to grow, to become whole people again instead of these half-alive versions of ourselves?" My phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text message. Graham's eyes flicked to it. "I'm emotionally unavailable. Is that what you're saying?" His voice was quieter now, more controlled. "I'm saying we've grown apart. We've become roommates instead of lovers. This could help us find our way back to each other." Another buzz from my phone. "Is there someone else, Tryphena?" The question hit like a slap. "Why would you even think that?" "Because this conversation feels very specific. Like you've already thought this through, like you already have someone in mind. My phone buzzed a third time. Graham's eyes moved to it again, then back to my face. There's no one else, I said firmly. This is about us, about what we need to do to save our marriage. But even as I said it, I could feel Miles's messages burning through the phone screen. 3 texts in 5 minutes. He was probably wondering why I hadn't responded to his earlier message about meeting for coffee tomorrow. Graham studied my face for what felt like an eternity. I need time to think about this. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Graham... I reached for his hand. He let me take it, but his fingers remained limp. I hope you'll really consider this. I hope you'll see that I'm trying to save us, not destroy us. He nodded slowly, then pulled his hand away. I'm going to finish grading these papers. We can talk more tomorrow. As he walked back to the dining room, my phone buzzed again. This time, I couldn't resist checking it. Miles, still thinking about our lunch today. You looked beautiful in that blue dress. Miles, can't wait to see you again tomorrow. Miles, hope your husband appreciates what he has. Miles, sweet dreams, gorgeous. I quickly turned the phone face down, but not before catching Graham's reflection in the hallway mirror. He was watching me, his expression unreadable. Tomorrow, I thought, tomorrow everything would start to change. The office break room buzzed with the usual morning gossip as I stirred sugar into my coffee. Miles appeared beside me at the counter, his cologne mixing with the smell of burnt coffee and microwaved breakfast sandwiches. Morning, beautiful, he said quietly, reaching for a mug. Good morning, I replied, glancing around to make sure no one was paying attention. Most of our co-workers were absorbed in their phones or complaining about the weather. How did the conversation go last night? His dark eyes searched my face. You seemed tense in your last text. I had told him about my plan to talk to Graham, though I'd framed it differently. In my version, Graham and I had been growing apart for months, and we were both considering our options. It went well, I lied smoothly. He's thinking about it. Good. You deserve to be happy, Tryphena. Miles's hand brushed mine as he reached for the cream. You deserve to be with someone who sees how amazing you are. The touch sent a little thrill through me. When was the last time Graham had touched me like that? When was the last time he'd called me amazing? We should be careful here, I murmured, but I didn't step away. I know, but it's hard to be around you and pretend I don't want to know everything about you. He lowered his voice even more. What you think about when you're lying in bed at night. What makes you laugh? What makes you feel alive? My cheeks flushed. This was exactly what had been missing from my life. This excitement, this sense of being truly seen and desired. Miles. I know, we're taking it slow, but Tryphena. He leaned closer, pretending to reach for a napkin. I can't stop thinking about you. Before I could respond, Jessica from accounting appeared at the coffee station. Oh, hey you two, getting your caffeine fix? Just the usual morning ritual, I said, stepping back from Miles. How was your weekend, Jess? As Jessica launched into a story about her daughter's soccer game, I caught Miles's eye. He gave me a small smile and mouthed later before heading back to his desk. The rest of the morning dragged. I found myself checking my phone constantly, waiting for messages from Miles. When lunchtime finally arrived, I practically ran to my car. We met at Riverside Cafe, a little place downtown that was usually busy enough to provide cover. Miles was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with 2 menus. I ordered you an iced tea, he said as I slid into the seat across from him. I hope that's okay. Perfect. I was touched that he'd remembered my drink preference from our previous lunch. You look stressed, he observed, reaching across the table to touch my hand. Everything okay at home? I sighed. Graham is processing. He's not exactly the spontaneous type. He needs time to think about everything. And how are you handling that? It's frustrating. I finally work up the courage to be honest about what I need, and he just Shuts down. Goes into his analytical teacher mode. Miles squeezed my hand. That must be really hard. To put yourself out there like that and not get the response you hoped for. Exactly. It felt so good to be understood. I mean, I'm not asking him to make a decision today, but some enthusiasm would be nice. Some sign that he cares about my happiness. Maybe he's scared, Miles suggested. Some guys don't handle change well. They get comfortable in their routines and forget that their wives are actual people with needs and desires. That's exactly it. He sees me as this fixed thing. Wife, mother, not as a woman who might want something more. Our server appeared to take our order. I chose a salad, too nervous to eat much of anything. Miles ordered a burger and fries. So, tell me about you, I said once we were alone again. What made you take the job at our company? Fresh start, he said simply. I was in a relationship that wasn't going anywhere. She wanted different things than I did. I figured a new job, new city, new possibilities. What kind of different things? She wanted to get married, have kids right away, the whole suburban dream. But I felt like we barely knew each other as individuals. How can you commit to forever with someone when you haven't even explored who you are yet? I nodded eagerly. Yes, that's exactly how I feel. Graham and I got married so young. I was 25, he was 28. We thought we knew what we wanted, but we were basically still kids. And now you're ready to figure out who you really are. Right, and maybe that person is still compatible with Graham. Maybe she's not, but I'll never know if I don't explore. Miles smiled. I love how brave you are. It takes real courage to be honest about what you want, especially when it goes against what society expects. We talked for over an hour. Miles told me about his college years, his travels, his dreams of maybe starting his own consulting business someday. I found myself sharing things I'd never told Graham, my secret wish to take art classes, my fantasy of traveling to Italy, my fear that I was becoming invisible as I got older. You could never be invisible, Miles said as we prepared to leave. You light up every room you walk into. In the parking lot, he walked me to my car. For a moment, we stood close together, and I thought he might kiss me. Instead, he brushed a strand of hair from my face. Thank you for lunch, for trusting me with your thoughts. Thank you for listening, for seeing me. As I drove back to the office, I felt more alive than I had in years. This was what I'd been missing. This connection, this excitement, this sense of possibility. My phone rang as I pulled into the parking garage. Graham's name appeared on the screen. Hey, I answered. Hi, how's your day going? Fine, just grabbing lunch. What's up? I was thinking about our conversation last night. Maybe we could talk more tonight, after Bella goes to bed. Something in his tone made me nervous. Sure. Is everything okay? Yeah, I have some questions, some things I want to understand better. Okay, I'll be home by 6. After we hung up, I sat in my car for a few minutes, trying to shake off the anxiety creeping up my spine. Graham's voice had sounded different, more alert, more focused. But that was probably good, right? It meant he was taking this seriously, taking me seriously. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror, reapplied my lipstick, and headed back to work. Whatever questions Graham had, I was ready for them. I had nothing to hide. By Thursday, I was practically floating on air. Miles and I had been texting constantly, and our lunch meetings had become the highlight of my week. Graham had been asking more questions about my needs and feelings, but he still seemed to be processing rather than embracing the idea. Let's try somewhere different today, Miles suggested as we left the office building. I heard good things about that new place on Maple Street, Cornerstone Cafe. I hesitated. Cornerstone was more upscale than our usual spots, and it was in the heart of downtown, where we were more likely to run into people we knew. But Miles looked so hopeful, and I was tired of hiding. Sure, I said. Let's live a little. The cafe was exactly as I'd imagined. Exposed brick walls, local artwork, the kind of place where young professionals brought their laptops to work. Miles had reserved a table by the window, which felt both thrilling and terrifying. "You seem nervous," he observed as we settled into our seats. "A little. This feels very public. Is that a bad thing?" He reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm tired of hiding how I feel about you, Tryphena. You're an incredible woman. Why shouldn't the world see that I think so?" My heart raced. This was moving faster than I'd expected, but it felt right, natural, like this was how things were supposed to be. What if someone sees us? Then they see two people enjoying each other's company. There's nothing wrong with that. He was right, of course. Graham and I had agreed to explore our options. Well, I had proposed it and he was considering it. Same thing, really. We ordered grilled salmon for me, pasta for him, and settled into easy conversation. Miles told me about his weekend plans, a hiking trip with some college friends who were visiting. I found myself wishing I could go with him, imagining how it would feel to be introduced as his, what, girlfriend? Partner? "Earth to Tryphena," Miles said, laughing. "You went somewhere else for a minute there." "Sorry, just thinking about how nice it would be to go hiking. Graham and I used to do things like that, before Bella was born. Now, our idea of adventure is trying a new restaurant." "When's the last time you did something just for yourself? Something that made you feel alive?" I was about to answer when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Tryphena? Tryphena Marsh?" I turned around, my stomach dropping. Linda Morrison from our church stood there with her shopping bags, a confused smile on her face. "Hi, Linda," I managed. "I thought that was you. What a lovely surprise." Her eyes moved to Miles, then back to me, the confusion deepening. "I don't think I've met your friend." "This is Miles," I said, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. "Miles, this is Linda Morrison. We go to church together." Miles stood and extended his hand. "Nice to meet you, Linda." "Likewise." Linda shook his hand, but her eyes were still moving between us, taking in the intimate table setting, our clasped hands. "I was just picking up some pastries for tonight's book club. Where's Graham today?" "At work," I said quickly. "He's at work." "Of course. Well, you two enjoy your lunch. I should run." But she didn't move immediately. Instead, she glanced around the restaurant, as if memorizing the details. Such a nice place, very romantic. After she left, I felt sick. "Friend of yours?" Miles asked, settling back into his seat. "Church friend. She talks a lot." "Are you worried about what she'll think?" I considered lying, but Miles had been so honest with me. "A little. Small town, you know. People talk." "Let them talk. You're not doing anything wrong." But it didn't feel that simple. The rest of lunch was tainted by Linda's appearance. I kept glancing toward the door, expecting more familiar faces to appear. That evening, my sister Margot called while I was making dinner. "So," she said without preamble, "Linda Morrison called me." My blood went cold. "Oh? She saw you having lunch with some guy downtown. A very handsome guy, according to her. Very attentive. Margot. She said you looked cozy. Her word, not mine." I moved into the living room, lowering my voice. "It's not what she thinks." "What is it then?" I glanced toward the kitchen, where Graham was helping Bella with her homework. "Remember what I told you about Graham and me? About how we've been talking about opening things up? You mean that wasn't just theoretical? We're exploring our options, both of us. Tryph, are you sure about this? I mean, Graham seems like such a good guy. And Bella. This isn't about Graham being good or bad. This is about being honest about what we need, what we both need." Margot was quiet for a moment. "Okay, I trust you, but maybe be more careful about where you have these explorations. Linda Morrison has a mouth on her." After dinner, I was loading the dishwasher when Graham appeared beside me. "Linda Morrison called," he said quietly. I froze, a plate halfway to the rack. "She was concerned about you, said you seemed upset when she saw you at lunch today." I forced myself to continue loading dishes. I wasn't upset, just surprised to see her. She mentioned you were with a man, someone she didn't recognize. His name is Miles. He's a coworker. The same Miles you've been texting. My hand stilled. You've been reading my texts? Your phone was on the counter this morning. It kept buzzing. I wasn't trying to read them, but his name came up a lot. We stared at each other across the kitchen. 7 years of marriage, and I felt like I was looking at a stranger. Graham, we talked about this. We agreed. We didn't agree to anything. You told me what you wanted, and I said I'd think about it. And while you're thinking, what am I supposed to do? Put my life on hold? I suppose that depends on whether there was a life to put on hold, or if this was already happening. The accusation hung between us like smoke. I wanted to deny it, to explain that Miles was just a friend, that nothing had happened. But part of me was tired of explaining, tired of justifying my need for connection and excitement. I'm not going to apologize for having friends, Graham. I'm not going to apologize for having conversations with people who actually listen to me. Is that what you call it? Conversations? What else would I call it? He studied my face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. You're right, I'm sorry. I guess I'm still trying to understand how this all works. His response surprised me. I'd been prepared for a fight, but Graham seemed to be backing down. It's okay, I said softly. This is new for both of us. We're going to have to figure it out as we go. I suppose we are. That night, as I lay in bed next to Graham, I felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. He was being so reasonable about everything, so measured and calm. Part of me had wanted him to fight for me, to show some passion, some jealousy. Instead, he'd simply accepted that I was having lunch with another man, that I was getting texts from someone who called me gorgeous and said he couldn't stop thinking about me. Maybe this really was going to work. Maybe Graham and I could find our way to something better, something more honest. My phone buzzed with a text from Miles. Had a wonderful time today. You're even more beautiful when you're nervous. I smiled in the darkness and typed back, thank you for being so patient with me. Always. Sweet dreams, gorgeous. I set the phone on my nightstand and closed my eyes, already looking forward to tomorrow. Sunday dinner at our house had always been a family tradition. Graham would cook, I'd handle the sides, and we'd host whoever was available from both our families. This week, it was Graham's mother Marion, his brother Paul, my sister Margot, and her husband Jeremy. Bella loved these gatherings, running between the adults and soaking up all the attention. But today felt different, tense. I caught Marion watching me with sharp eyes, and Jeremy seemed unusually quiet. So, Tryphena, Marion said as we cleared the dinner plates, how's work going? Staying busy? Very busy, I replied, stacking dishes carefully. Lots of new projects. I bet. Linda Morrison mentioned she saw you downtown last week, said you were having lunch with a colleague. My hand stilled. Of course, Linda had called Marion too. The church gossip network was more efficient than the internet. That's right. We were discussing a work project. How nice. What kind of project requires lunch meetings? Graham appeared in the kitchen doorway. Mum, leave it alone. I'm just making conversation with my daughter-in-law. No, you're fishing, and it's not necessary. Marion's eyebrows rose. So, you know about these lunch meetings? I know everything I need to know. The kitchen fell silent except for the sound of running water. I felt like I was watching a tennis match, waiting to see who would serve next. Well, Margot said brightly, should we move to the living room? I brought that photo album I've been meaning to show everyone. We relocated to the living room, but the tension followed us. Bella curled up on the floor with her coloring books, oblivious to the undercurrents swirling around her. Graham, Paul said, settling into his usual armchair. How's the school year going? Still enjoying third grade? It's going well. The kids are great this year. That's wonderful. Teaching is such important work, stable work. The emphasis on stable felt pointed. I glanced at Paul. wondering what he knew or suspected. Stability is important, Jeremy agreed, looking directly at me. Especially when you have a family. Children need consistency. Of course they do, I said, my voice sharper than intended. No one's suggesting otherwise. Of course not, Margot said quickly. Jeremy didn't mean... I meant exactly what I said, Jeremy interrupted. Children need their parents to be present, focused, not distracted by other interests. The room went very quiet. Even Bella looked up from her colouring. I think, I said, standing up, that everyone here needs to remember that they don't actually know what they're talking about. Tryphena, Graham said quietly. No, Graham. I'm tired of the sideways comments and the judgy looks. If people have something to say, they should say it directly. Marian set down her coffee cup. Fine, I'll be direct. Are you having an affair? Mom, Paul warned. It's a simple question. Yes or no? I felt my face burning. How dare you? How dare I what? Ask about behaviour that's affecting my son and granddaughter. Linda Morrison isn't the only one talking, Tryphena. Half the church saw you with that man. Holding hands. Looking very cosy. What Graham and I do in our marriage is none of your business. It becomes my business when my granddaughter starts asking why Mommy seems sad all the time. I whirled toward Bella, who was staring at us with wide, frightened eyes. Bella hasn't said anything like that. She told me yesterday that you cry in your car, Marian continued relentlessly. She said you talk on the phone a lot and laugh in a way that sounds different from how you laugh with Daddy. My heart clenched. She's 7 years old. She doesn't understand. She understands more than you think. Graham stood up abruptly. That's enough, everyone. Graham, I started. No, this ends now. His voice was different, harder. Mom, Paul, Jeremy, I appreciate your concern, but this is between Tryphena and me. Margot, thank you for dinner. I think it's time for everyone to go home. Graham, Paul said, if you need to talk, I know where to find you. The room emptied quickly after that. Margot squeezed my hand on her way out, whispering, call me later. Jeremy avoided eye contact entirely. Marian kissed Bella goodbye and gave me a look that could have frozen water. After everyone left, Graham sent Bella to her room to play. Then he sat down across from me, his face unreadable. We need to talk, he said. Your family had no right. My family is worried about me, about Bella. Can you blame them? They're judging me based on gossip and assumptions. Are they wrong? The question hung between us. I could lie, I could deny everything, paint myself as the victim of small-town gossip. But looking at Graham's face, I realized he already knew the answer. It's not what you think, I said finally. What do I think? That I'm some kind of cheating wife, that I'm sneaking around behind your back. Aren't you? We talked about this, Graham. We agreed to explore. We didn't agree to anything. His voice rose, then dropped again as he remembered Bella upstairs. You told me what you wanted. You gave me an ultimatum disguised as a conversation. And while I was trying to process what you'd said, you were already out there living it. I wasn't living anything. I was having lunch with a friend. A friend who texts you constantly. A friend who makes you laugh differently. A friend you hold hands with in public. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text from Miles. Graham and I both looked at it. Answer it, Graham said quietly. What? Answer the text. I want to see what kind of friend sends messages during family dinner time. With shaking hands, I picked up the phone. The message read, thinking about you, hope you're having a good evening. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. I set the phone back down without responding. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, Graham repeated. That's what friends say to each other? Graham, how long? How long what? How long have you been seeing him? Really seeing him, not just thinking about it or needing space or whatever story you've been telling yourself? I stared at my hands. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. He nodded slowly. And when exactly were you planning to tell me that this had moved beyond theoretical? I did tell you. I told you I needed to explore. You told me you felt trapped. You told me you needed more. You didn't tell me you'd already found it with someone else. Graham stood up and walked to the window, looking out at our quiet street. Do you love him? The question caught me off guard. It's not about love. It's about connection, about feeling alive. That's not an answer. I don't know. Maybe it's complicated. It's really not. He turned back to face me. Either you love him or you don't. Either you want to be married to me or you don't. Either you want to work on this family or you want to blow it up for someone who makes you feel alive. Why can't it be both? Why does it have to be all or nothing? Because that's what marriage is, Tryphena. All or nothing. At least, that's what I thought we agreed to 7 years ago. My phone buzzed again. This time, Graham reached for it before I could. Don't, I said. Why not? If this is all innocent, if this is just exploration that you're doing with my knowledge and consent, why can't I see what he's saying to my wife? He looked at the screen, and I watched his face change. I can't stop thinking about how beautiful you look today, he read aloud. The way you smiled when I touched your hand. I wish I could hold you properly, kiss you the way you deserve to be kissed. He set the phone down very carefully. Graham, I can explain. No. He walked toward the stairs, then stopped. I'm going to check on Bella. When I come back down, I want you to decide what you want. Him or me, this marriage or whatever that is. But I'm done pretending that we can have both. As his footsteps disappeared up the stairs, I sat alone in our living room, surrounded by the remnants of our family dinner. My phone buzzed once more, but I didn't look at it. For the first time since this all started, I wondered if I'd made a terrible mistake. Monday morning at the office felt different. Conversations seemed to stop when I walked by, and I caught several co-workers glancing at me with expressions I couldn't quite read. When I got to my desk, there was a note asking me to see HR before lunch. Miles appeared at my cubicle around 10, but instead of his usual warm smile, he looked nervous. Hey, he said quietly. Can we talk? Sure, what's up? Maybe somewhere private. We walked to the parking garage, which was mostly empty during work hours. Tryphena, I think we might have a problem. My stomach dropped. What kind of problem? I got called into HR this morning. Someone filed a complaint about inappropriate workplace conduct. What? Who? They wouldn't tell me, but they asked a lot of questions about our relationship, about lunch meetings, text messages, whether I was aware you were married. I felt the blood drain from my face. What did you tell them? The truth, that we're friends, that we sometimes eat lunch together. But Tryphena, he ran his hand through his hair, they seemed to know more than they were letting on, like someone had been keeping track of our interactions. This is insane. We haven't done anything wrong. Haven't we? Miles stepped closer, but then seemed to think better of it and moved back. I mean, we've been pretty obvious about how we feel about each other, and you are married. My marriage is complicated right now. I know, but to HR, to our co-workers, it probably looks like we're having an affair. The word hung between us like an accusation. Were we having an affair? We hadn't slept together, hadn't even kissed, but the emotional intimacy, the secrecy, the constant texting. So what do we do? I asked. I think we need to cool things down for a while, just until this blows over. Cool things down how? No more lunch meetings, no more personal texts during work hours. We need to be completely professional. I felt like he was breaking up with me. Miles, this is exactly what I was afraid of. The judgment, the gossip, the assumption that what we have is somehow wrong. But maybe they're not wrong. His voice was soft but firm. Maybe we've been telling ourselves this is okay because we want it to be okay. But you're married, Tryphena. You have a family. A family that doesn't appreciate me. A husband who takes me for granted. A husband who seemed pretty upset when he called me this morning. My blood turned to ice. Graham called you? About an hour ago. He was very polite, very calm. He introduced himself and asked if we could have a conversation about you. Oh God, what did you say? I told him I thought he should be having that conversation with you, not me. But Tryphena, he knew things, specific things, about our lunches, about what we've talked about. Someone's been keeping him informed. I thought about the family dinner, about Marion's pointed questions, about Paul's emphasis on stability. His family, they've been watching me. Does it matter who? The point is, this isn't as private as we thought it was. My HR meeting was even worse than I'd expected. Janet Morrison, no relation to Linda, but just as stern, sat across from me with a manila folder full of what looked like documentation. Tryphena, we've received some concerns about your conduct with a co-worker, specifically Miles Denning. What kind of concerns? Reports of excessive personal communication during work hours, extended lunch breaks, public displays of affection. Public displays of affection? We've never... Hand-holding, intimate conversation, what witnesses described as romantic behavior in local restaurants. I felt trapped, like the walls were closing in. Miles and I are friends. We sometimes eat lunch together. There's nothing in the employee handbook that prohibits that. There's also nothing that prohibits us from investigating when that friendship appears to be affecting the workplace environment. How is it affecting the workplace? Janet opened the folder. We've received multiple reports of you being distracted during meetings, spending excessive time on personal phone calls, and creating an uncomfortable dynamic with a married employee engaging in what appears to be an extramarital relationship. I'm not engaging in an extramarital relationship. Then you're saying the reports are false? That you and Mr. Denning have maintained a purely professional relationship? I stared at her, realizing I was trapped. If I admitted to the emotional connection, I'd be confirming the affair allegations. If I denied it, I'd be lying, and they clearly had evidence to the contrary. My personal relationships are not the company's business, as long as they don't interfere with my work performance. Are you saying they don't interfere with your work performance? Before I could answer, she slid a piece of paper across the desk. It was a log of my computer activity, showing personal email checks, social media browsing, and what appeared to be extensive personal phone usage during work hours. This is from last week alone, Janet said. Your productivity has dropped significantly over the past month. Your supervisor has noted that you seem distracted and unfocused. I felt sick. I wasn't aware that my performance had been an issue. It's becoming an issue. Combined with the complaints about inappropriate conduct, we need to address this before it becomes a bigger problem. What does that mean? It means you need to decide what's more important, your job or your personal situation, because right now they seem to be incompatible. That evening I sat in my car in our driveway for 20 minutes before going inside. Graham's car was there, along with Paul's. Through the living room window, I could see them talking while Bella played on the floor between them. When I finally went inside, the conversation stopped. "Hi, honey," I said to Bella, who ran over for a hug. "How was school?" "Good. Uncle Paul brought me a new book." "That's wonderful. Why don't you go wash your hands for dinner?" After Bella left the room, Paul stood up. "I should get going. Graham, think about what we discussed." "I will." Paul nodded to me on his way out. "Tryphena." "Paul." After he left, Graham and I stood in our living room like strangers. "How was work?" he asked. "Terrible. Someone reported Miles and me to HR. They think we're having an affair." "Are you?" "No. Yes. I don't know." I sank onto the couch. "We haven't slept together, if that's what you're asking." "That's not what I'm asking." I looked up at him. "Then what are you asking?" "I'm asking if you're in love with him. I'm asking if you want to be with him more than you want to be with me. I'm asking if our marriage is over and you just haven't figured out how to tell me yet." The questions hung in the air like smoke. I wanted to give him the answers he wanted to hear, but I wasn't sure what those answers were anymore. "I don't know," I said finally. "I'm confused. Everything's happening so fast." Graham nodded slowly. "Okay. Then I think you need some time to figure it out." What does that mean? It means maybe you should stay at Margot's for a few days. Give yourself some space to think about what you really want. You're kicking me out? I'm giving you what you said you needed: freedom, space, time to explore your options without having to worry about hurting me or confusing Bella. I stared at him. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. He was supposed to fight for me, to show me that he cared enough to compete for my attention. Instead, he was letting me go. Graham, I'll pack a bag for you. You can pick up anything else you need later. As I listened to him moving around upstairs, gathering my things, I realized that for the first time since this all started, I had no idea what was going to happen next. And for the first time, that terrified me. 3 days at Margot's house had been 3 days too many. Her guest room was cramped, her kids were loud, and Jeremy made his disapproval clear through pointed silences and early bedtime retreats. Even Margot seemed less supportive than she'd been initially. Maybe you should call Graham, she suggested over coffee Wednesday morning. Try to work things out. I thought you supported me exploring my options. I support you being happy, but Tryph, you seem miserable. You've been crying every night, you're not eating, and that guy from work hasn't even texted you since Monday. She was right about Miles. After our conversation in the parking garage, he'd gone completely silent. No good morning texts, no lunch invitations, no flirtatious messages. It was like he'd disappeared. He's being careful because of the HR situation. Or he's realizing that dating a married woman is more complicated than he thought. I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. Miles had seemed genuinely rattled by Graham's phone call and the HR complaint. The excitement and passion that had drawn us together was being crushed under the weight of reality. I need to go home, I said finally. I need to talk to Graham properly. Figure out where we stand. But when I pulled into our driveway that afternoon, Paul's car was there again. And this time, there was another car I didn't recognize. Inside, I found Graham, Paul, and a woman in a business suit sitting around our dining room table with papers spread between them. Tryphena, Graham said, standing up. I wasn't expecting you. This is my house too. I looked at the papers, trying to read them upside down. What's going on? This is Sarah Chen, my attorney, Paul said. We were just reviewing some documents. My blood went cold. What kind of documents? Sarah Chen spoke for the first time. Mrs. Marsh, perhaps you'd like to sit down. I'll stand. What kind of documents? Graham's voice was steady, almost clinical. Divorce papers, custody arrangements, asset division. The room tilted. What? I filed for divorce this morning. Without talking to me, without trying to work things out. We've been trying to work things out for weeks. You made your choice. I didn't make any choice. I asked for time to think. Sarah Chen opened a manila folder. Mrs. Marsh, we have documentation suggesting that you've been engaged in an extramarital relationship for several weeks. Documentation? She slid a stack of papers across the table. Photos of Miles and me at various restaurants, printouts of text messages, copies of my work computer logs, even receipts from our lunch dates. Where did you get these? Your husband hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago, Sarah said calmly, after you told him you wanted to open your marriage. I stared at Graham. You had me followed. I had the truth documented. There's a difference. This is insane. We talked about this. You said you were okay with me exploring. I said I would think about it. I never said I was okay with anything. Graham's voice remained level. And while I was thinking, you were already involved with someone else. Sarah spread more papers across the table. We have time-stamped photos of you and Mr. Denning holding hands at Cornerstone Cafe. Text message logs showing intimate communication during work hours. Witness statements from co-workers about your changed behavior and decreased productivity. Witness statements? People notice things, Tryphena, Paul said quietly, especially when someone's marriage is falling apart in public. I felt like I was drowning. Graham, please. Can we talk privately? Anything you want to say, you can say in front of my attorney. I want to save our marriage. Do you? The dining room smelled like a courtroom. Graham sat at the head of our table, flanked by Sarah Chen and his attorney, Paul. Between them, a neat row of folders labeled like autopsy photos. Sarah didn't waste time. Primary custody to Mr. Marsh. Marital home to Mr. Marsh. Generous visitation for you, Mrs. Marsh. Every other weekend, Wednesday dinners, alternating holidays. No child support requested. I laughed, a cracked sound. You're taking my daughter because I had lunch with a man. Graham finally looked at me. I'm keeping her safe while you finish figuring out who you are without us. Sarah slid a single sheet across, a signed statement from Miles. He confirmed the emotional affair. He confirmed I'd told him our marriage was over. He confirmed he wanted no part of the fallout. My lungs forgot how to work. Miles talked to you. He talked to the investigator the minute he realized this could cost him his own marriage, Sarah said, not unkindly. He asked us to leave his name out of the filing if possible. We said no. I stared at Graham. You'd really take Bella from me? I'm not taking her. You handed her to me the first time you told another man you wished you were with him instead. Silence. Even the clock stopped ticking. Sarah closed her folder. You'll be served tomorrow. Get a lawyer, or sign this and we keep it quiet. Your choice. I looked down the hallway. Bella's door was cracked open. She was on her bed, hugging the stuffed giraffe, staring at me like I was already a visitor. Mommy, are you staying? Not tonight, baby. She nodded, small and accepting, and went back to her giraffe. I signed. 3 months later, I have a studio apartment with echoes and scheduled weekends. Bella calls Graham's new girlfriend, Miss Jenna, and asks if she can sleep over there on my nights because Daddy's house has her books. Miles changed his number. Graham kept the dog, the photos, the life we built. I kept the lesson. Feeling desired for 10 minutes can cost you the people who loved you for 10 years. And some doors, once you walk out, lock behind you forever.